She was one of the first ships to become resting on what was about to be known as Iron Bottom Sound. 193 casualties on board Canberra and the loss of her commanding officer. We're now just in here. Tulagi is right here.
Really? Little tiny place, isn't it?
And so this is Guadalcanal. So the Japanese were building the airstrips here and had their forces here. The Americans came up from what was the New Hebrides. They actually came around this way through into here, and each day the carriers would come in, they would attack, they landed here, they would keep attacking, and at night the carriers would retreat. The Japanese were coming down from Rabaul, and this was called the slot, and the destroyers used to race down through here, attack during the night and turn around during the day and head back up here. But the whole Battle of Guadalcanal took place in this tiny little area here.
And out here is the infamous island of Guadalcanal. And when I say infamous, I mean infamous for us, particularly the Marines, United States Marines, of which Steve will always be. Once a Marine, always a Marine. It's like anything, you know, you have to be there to really appreciate the magnitude of what went on. When you think of the Marines being landed here and having to slog their way over this tiny island with the Japanese in the higher ground and tunneled in, it's just no wonder that the battle lasted for months.
The first major Allied offensive through the course of the Pacific War, and it was designed to protect the lines of communications with Australia and push the Japanese back, and also by engaging the Japanese in this area, it was going to draw forces away from other areas where they could then progress through, and the ultimate goal of pushing the Japanese back, of course, and we all know how the war ended. But Pearl Harbor, December 1941, the Battle of the Coral Sea, a major naval battle in May 1942, followed by Midway in June 1942. Guadalcanal was a big one. We're talking about, you know, a really major, significant landing force of the US Marines with a very large fleet backing them up, aircraft carriers with multiple aircraft, and this was really the beginning of it all. Now, the channel that we travelled through yesterday, these days technically it's called Savo Sound, but it's also known as Iron Bottom Sound. Now, not just from the Battle of Savo itself, but all the subsequent actions within that Guadalcanal campaign led to over 100 ships and planes being sunk in that immediate area. We were in Roderick Bay, in here. Can you all see that laser pointer? We're only talking a matter of minutes of travelling through that sandfly passage. Because the battles of Guadalcanal were to take Honiara and Tulagi. That's where the Japanese had their forces. And I'm thinking this is some kind of massive distance. On a clear day from Honiara, you can see Tulagi. I mean, it's not big distances at all. And each one of these red dots is a major vessel that was sunk. Water is so deep, it's not the greatest scuba diving in the world. You have to be a pretty good scuba diver to get down there. So where we've been travelling overnight, the American forces came up, aircraft carriers, all of the escort ships, and then most importantly, all of those landing ships full of Marines. This is where we were yesterday, right there. So the Americans planned to land on the 7th, and this battle took place on the 8th and the 9th. MacArthur had made the bold claim that given 2 carriers and an amphibious force, he could take Rabaul and hurl the Japanese back 700 miles. Offensive after Pearl Harbor itself, the Allies really needed to gain this foothold in the Pacific to start their move forward. New Guinea and Australia was under Army command under MacArthur. The rest of the Pacific, the North Pacific, Central Pacific and South Pacific, was under Navy control, under overall control of Nimitz. So from the moment this was planned on the 1st of July, it's only 38 days later when the first Marine boots hit the ground at Tulagi. So the airstrip was called Target Cactus, if you like. Now this map, if you can see, each of these little red circles was basically a position of importance throughout the war, because the Japanese had either air bases or ground troops or naval forces there. So this is on the mainland of New Guinea, and this is of course where Kokoda took place. You can see the little red circles there, so Kokoda was down here. This is Rabaul, where we were the other day, Kayang to the north, Bougainville, and then right down into Roderick Bay and Honiara. So this red circle around Tulagi actually includes where we were yesterday at Roderick Bay. The Japanese inevitably did come down here, but anybody coming down here, in theory, hopefully, would have been picked up by one of these radar ships. And there was also issues with command, such as orders that were given by, you know, say a Royal Navy officer, were interpreted differently on an American ship. Killed, 700 plus were wounded, 4 heavy cruisers sunk, multiple destroyers severely damaged. The defeat expedited the departure of Turner's amphibious task force, leaving the Marines to fend for themselves on Guadalcanal. Remember, these guys were there to protect the Marines, those 15,000 Marines that were landing to take the airbase, and they've effectively lost their security screen. Their carriers had already left the night before, and we now have all of these troops ashore, and with a significant loss of their supporting force, who then had to fight it out, continually being attacked for weeks and weeks following. And on that opening night, when all of those ships and all of those lives were lost, it was an incredible blow. Australia took a big hit, losing a cruiser and losing good officers and good men. So for the Australian force, it was quite a significant loss indeed. The lessons from that battle have been used right through to modern warfare today of what not to do.